So here we are in the last session, and we're tying together one of the key themes of this class, which is professional identity and your emerging professional identity. So I chose this picture here. It's this road, straight road that's tree-lined, and to me it represents the journey of your process of your MSW education. And just like this picture, you imagine yourself walking down this road. Now, actually, probably your journey will not be a straight road. It will probably have some winding curves and some unknowns that come at you as you're walking down a road. So it'll be a meandering journey a bit. But hopefully one of the things that you are taking away from this class is that social work is a process, and it's a process of engaging your values and your ethics with individuals and families and communities and organizations to try and think about social change. And think a little bit about where you were before you started this program. Maybe you always knew you wanted to be a social worker, and so this journey is just confirming that you've picked the right profession. Maybe you weren't quite sure, and now that you've gotten into it, you're like, yeah, this is the right place for me. This is what I want to be doing. And maybe since you're just beginning this journey, and if you haven't had a lot of experience already in social work roles, you're still having a lot of questions about how this journey is going to be. And all of those are pretty normal places to be at this point in time. I just want you to remember that it is a journey and it is a process, and that you will continue to develop this professional identity as you move forward. This is a pretty busy graphic there. We use this as our conceptual framework, there's that word framework again, for the Graduate School of Social Work at the University of Denver, as the way in which we see your required foundation curriculum. And so I wanted to show this to you so you can kind of get the whole picture. Sometimes it will feel like you're getting little pieces here and little pieces there, but it really does all hang together. And so let me just say a word about this framework. You'll notice in the big circle at the top, you have social work profession. And underneath that, it says professional identity for social justice. So that's the core of how we have started this class and the theme that we have carried through this class. And it's why it's one of your first classes in your social work education. Then on the left side, as you're facing the screen or the graphic, you see that we have values and ethics, which is a lot that we have talked about, that we bring ours and the profession brings theirs, and we have these arrows that go back and forth. And on the other side in the box, we have some of the context of our profession. So we have the historical context, which we've talked about in this class. We have a context of understanding power, privilege, and oppression, which is another course that you'll take. And we have an understanding that we have many fields of practice and address many social problems, which you've just begun to do in this class in a kind of mini way and will continue to do. Notice that after that we have critical thinking. We need critical thinking, and we need you all to be good critical thinkers. And I don't mean by that being judgmental, and I don't mean by that being necessarily academic in terms of writing a critique of lots of theories or ideas, although you'll do some of that. I really mean that we need to bring our best thinking to our work. And so between you as a professional and your identity, and the two other circles, we put this concept of always bringing your best thinking, because that thinking then translates into the social work relationship. And notice that those two circles, as they overlap, include on one side you, the social worker, and on the other side all of the client systems, individuals, families, groups, community, policy entities, organizations at the local, national, and international level. So there are all the possible ways in which you may be interacting. And the intersection part of those two circles is the social work relationship. It never goes away, no matter the work that you're doing. And in your skills lab class, you're learning those beginning skills of how to build this relationship, how to engage people in relationships, and how to be multiculturally responsive in those relationships. Now, off to the side then, so the relationship is core. We have two boxes. On the left side there, we have the theories of change, micro, meso, and macro. So your entire social work education, you're going to learn all kinds of theories that will help you understand people and their behavior and the social environment. So you're going to learn theories at the micro, meso, and macro level to help you be more effective in bringing about change. And you're also going to learn, as noted on the other side, the theories of human development. How do people and systems develop, and what's their behavior? And you put those together in the relationship process, because you're using theories as you're building a relationship and as you're understanding people's problems. And then you're using them throughout the problem-solving process, assessment, interventions, and evaluation. And at the bottom there, we have that all of this is built on our evidence for practice. And in your research classes, you will learn about this concept of evidence for practice, what it means to us in the social work field, and how we use that to guide all the work that we do. In this class, just to review these components and how they fit into that framework, we studied history. And we studied history because history informs us about what we've done in the past, and it also forms us as a profession and as what we do in the future. We learn from the past and use that as a tool to critically reflect on the present. What did we learn by the fact that Mary Richmond and Jane Addams started two different ways to think about social work? And how does that inform us today as we think about empowerment as a practice? We learned about values and ethics, just the beginning of that. You had a chance to examine your own personal values that are always going to be a part of who you are and that are always going to intervene or come into your work. Sometimes your core values stay the same. Sometimes your core values are modified. But the values is where it all begins, because we are constantly making judgments about people's situations, about their lives, and about what's desirable. And we have to keep our own values in check and make sure that we're being true to those professional values. And you began to learn about ethics and a beginning guide for ethics decision making. It's a beginning, let me emphasize that. That will be a continual learning process. I can't believe how many guides for practice that I've had to relook at as I have gone through my career. And finally, you've learned how to solve problems, how problems are embedded in the lives of individuals, families, and communities. We've looked at problems that find themselves at the individual level, at the family level, or at societal level. We focused a little bit on these big social problems and how to think about those. And you've had the opportunity to be introduced to how social work as a profession is looking at our grand challenges. And why are we doing all of this? We're doing this because it's about who we are as social workers. It's about our primary mission that's written in the preamble of our Code of Ethics. We are enhancing human well-being, we're promoting human rights, and we're working for social justice. So here we are at the end of this quarter and finishing up the work that you have done over the last 10 weeks in understanding who we are as social workers. And that's pretty exciting. I know for you, it's in some ways just the beginning, but I think we need to honor every beginning and every small ending in an important way so that you know that you're on this journey that is taking you somewhere in terms of a profession that hopefully will be very rewarding for you. So the goal of this class was to put you on some good grounding. It's kind of like the floor of a house. It provides for you a kind of a place to stand as you move forward and learn all kinds of strategies to help people and all the different ways that we as social workers meddle. Remember, I talked about meddling in people's lives. And the idea is that you meddle with intention. You meddle in a way that really has a purpose to it and a plan for how we as social workers go about solving the world's problems. So you're standing on a very strong history, which we've talked about throughout this class. You understand that you have an identity that's been formed over the years and that you're going to continue to develop your own identity as a social worker. And you've learned a little bit about a social problem, one hopefully that you're interested in and that you may continue to work in your career as you move forward, and that these problems aren't new, that they're continuing, but that we as a profession continue to build on our knowledge and skills to move these problems along and to not only tackle them at the individual level, but to tackle them at the level of grand challenges, ones where we, with other people, can try and make a dent, try and make a difference in the world and the kinds of problems that people face. The other component of this course is, if we go back to its title, integrated. It's the idea that we practice at multiple levels, and no matter which direction you choose, hopefully you can now see the possibilities of practicing in all different ways as a social worker, which gives you some interesting career options. And also in the title of this course is the very important concept of social justice, which you will continue to hear in many different ways throughout your social work education. Working for social justice is a lifelong journey. It's not something you're going to get, for sure not in just this one introductory course. It's going to be one that you continue to think about and refine and figure out in terms of how you can implement that ideal in the work you do. It builds on our values and ethics, and you can use those values and ethics as a guide in your future work. I've often had students say, when they're trying to take on an issue or challenge somebody in terms of how they can be a better advocate, they'll go back to, well, this is in my code of ethics. This is what it says I do as a social worker. So that's why it's important that I say this, or that's why it's important that I'm here. So think about how you're going to embrace that value of social justice as you continue on this journey. And think about that social justice isn't just the advocacy and the macro practice, that social justice can also occur in your clinical and micro practice world. So you have a way in which you think about how you work with individuals and how you work with families, in addition to how you change communities and how you change policies that are embedded in a social justice framework. And finally, you get to choose a broad range of social issues that you will be sharing with each other as you have through this course, and learning about how your classmates and your colleagues are interested in all kinds of things. It could be intimate partner violence, it could be poverty, it could be inequality, it could be homelessness, it could be mental health, it could be racism, it could be aging, it could be social isolation. I mean, I could go on in terms of the list of things that are both opportunities and challenges for us as social workers in the context of our values and ethics to try and help solve. One of the things that I often end this class with is this idea about learning to love the questions. And I'm going to read to you a poem that is one I often share as I end this class. It's a poem that I read over and over again in my own life when I'm struggling to try and solve some issue. And it's written by Maria Reyna Rilke, who is quite the poet and wrote many poems. And this poem, part of this poem goes like this: "Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Like locked rooms and like books that are written in foreign languages, do not now seek the answers which cannot be given to you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps then you will gradually, without even noticing it, live some distant day into the answers." And I wish you the best of luck in your social work career.